This is Joe, and this is the Filmjoe Podcast, where film talk happens.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, I'm Joe, your host, and I'm here with Carlos.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome to the podcast where we talk about films, filmmakers, trends, the good, the bad, and not so bad, all in the spirit and for the love of film. So, the musical. Once sound was introduced into the world of films, I guess we can all say that, well, the musical was all the rage. But in its almost 100-year history, the genre has taken a few turns from being all the rage to a fad that began to kind of die out, to the modern day resurgence, being a regular genre staple of modern cinema. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be talking about the musical and where it came from, how it started, and where it's going.
Now, for those of us who are avid, constant viewers of the Filmjoe Podcast, if you remember back to the anime episode, I said, well, this episode was a direct challenge to a different episode that will come out later in the future. That episode is this one. I hate musicals. Personally, I don't really care for them. Sorry. And the whole deal was I told Mr. Joe here that I will watch musicals in exchange that he watches anime. Something that is out of our comfort zone, respectively. And that is the episode for today.
Yeah, and in all fairness, let's get something straight here. I was subjected to 5
correct
anime films.
Yes.
You only watched how many?
2.5.
1.5.
2.5. Both of which we will be talking about later on. But I just wanted to point out that I did end up watching 2.5. The other half I couldn't finish because it was late at night and I worked the next day in the morning. But I will end up finishing the other half that I have. And then I will subject myself to maybe, if the stars are in alignment, one more. Of your choosing, possibly.
I had to watch 5. But anyway.
Life ain't fair. But
let's move along.
What have you seen lately? What has been on your watch list?
Well, let's see. I recently saw, what was it? Oh, yeah, I saw a really good one. It's an older film from 1981. What do we call it? Victory. Have you heard of this?
Is that the football one?
Yeah, football soccer. With Stallone, Michael Caine, Pele. Really good film. I saw that just recently, and that was a good rewatch. And I hate soccer.
I love soccer.
I can't say.
You mean football?
Football. Yeah.
As they call it in 9/3 of 2/3. 2/3. A good majority of the world where it's just America where it calls it soccer.
So bad math aside, yes. I really don't. I don't like soccer, but I love a good sports film.
Correct.
It's all about overcoming your challenges and hitting your personal best, or giving hope for yourself or through a group of people and so forth. It was a really good film. I highly recommend it. It's a good film, directed by the late great John Huston. If you get a chance, good film. What else did I watch? Oh yeah. And I got to watch, I saw La La Land, which is part of the podcast for today. Great film. We'll definitely go into more details on that. And just normal stuff. The Last of Us, which I know you haven't caught up yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
I like to binge watch, and then I end up killing an entire afternoon like that.
Well, I think we're a couple episodes out now from the final episode at the time of recording. So, yeah, very soon you'll have your binge watch opportunity.
Yeah.
So, all right. And what about yourself?
I haven't sat down and watched a movie, but I did get the chance to mostly binge Wednesday on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It was a pretty interesting little trip. I haven't finished it. I'm on the second to last episode, something like that. But it's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. The little dance sequence and
which what's
thing.
her name?
Jenna Ortega.
She will not do that dance in public anymore.
No, she did a skit on what was it, Saturday Night Live?
Oh, really?
She's frustrated at the whole little dance.
But it was great. It was the highlight of that episode. It was great.
Yeah. One thing I am excited to see her in is a new Scream movie.
Oh,
she's in the new Scream. And that
Yeah.
looks intense.
Well, she's a
man.
rising star. She's coming up. I saw the entire run of Wednesday, and I loved it. I thought it was great. You're in for a treat. It gets better,
Oh, okay.
a lot better.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And what else?
That's it.
That's it?
That's all I bring to the table, man.
All right. Well, what do you say we jump into this episode then? And we are talking again. What are we talking about?
Oh, musical.
The musical.
Oh, it's so exciting. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first one we're going to jump into, we're going to jump into 2021's West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's an adaptation of the 1957 musical and a remake of the 1961 film. West Side Story explores a forbidden love and rivalry between the Jets and the Sharks. When you're a Jet, two teenage street gangs from different ethnic backgrounds. It stars Ansel Elgort and Rachel Zegler. So you just saw this for the first. Well, you saw.
I saw half.
Okay.
This is the half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great film. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really well done. I mean, I grew up on the original 1961 film, and then I thought it was pretty good. But
it's very musically. It's a musical, and you can tell right off the bat.
What's a musical?
I know it's a musical, but it frustrates me because I'm expecting something more serious along the lines of like The Outsiders.
Well, it kind of is The Outsiders.
It's The Outsiders meets Broadway.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point
I
of
know,
a musical.
I know that's the whole point, but it frustrates me because I'm like, nobody would sing and dance when they're about to beat up their rival gang.
But when
this
you're
is dumb.
But when you're a Jet. It was a very faithful remake. I think it brought in a new level of authenticity for the Puerto Rican culture.
Well, I mean, this time around, they actually used Puerto Rican actors.
Yeah, the first time around, it was just some, I guess, Caucasian actors, or you definitely saw the lack of authenticity, everything from the dialect to the common phrases and so forth. Yeah, it was very inauthentic. But again, I'm Puerto Rican, and we kind of held on to that film for decades and decades because it's one of the major films that talk about the Puerto Rican experience in the United States in the 50s and the 60s. But Spielberg definitely takes it to a new level. I mean, you have Spielberg's signature cinematography, which was just extremely, just breathtaking.
I mean, to the half that I got up to, I got up to where the guy from the Jets and the girl from the Sharks, Maria, and the other guy,
Tony
Montana,
different Tony.
But where they're doing their whole little balcony sing and they're singing with each other, I could tell it had like the little Spielberg touch. To
it was really beautifully done. The lighting was extraordinary. I don't know if you noticed a scene where he's standing, I guess it's in a puddle of water in the alley, and the lighting kind of sets up like a circle of lights around him and just glowing. I mean, it was just an extraordinary feat of cinematography and worthy, in my opinion. It should have won Best Picture. It was nominated.
Okay.
It was nominated, but it's just not the kind of film that wins Best Picture nowadays.
Yeah,
it's an old-fashioned film with a certain level of Hollywood epicness that, as we discussed in our Oscar episode, films, the Academy Awards doesn't really lean in that direction anymore, unfortunately.
Right. But
it was a great film and an incredible, I mean, in my opinion, I think I mentioned this before, we did cover this film. Spielberg achieved what I thought would be impossible, which was remake a great classic film and do it even better. And he did everything. Again, he stayed true to the format, that's all the musical numbers. He did do a special new scene in the film, Rita Moreno.
Oh, okay. Her character, the convenience store owner. Right?
Yeah, she was the original Anita.
In the original, it's not Maria, it's Anita.
No, it's Maria.
Never mind.
But Anita, her friend.
So
that's who she played in the original film. So he created a new character just for Rita Moreno. I mean, she is a Broadway royalty. She is film royalty. She's Puerto Rican royalty. and she deserved to have this special,
Yeah, it's a special little add-on that
And-
makes the film a little better.
And if and when you actually finish this film,
It will be a not an if, but a when.
Okay.
Probably within a following couple of days.
okay, all right, and I'll hold you to that. She does this beautiful song that is written specifically for her for the film, and just an amazing film. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I was lucky enough to see it on the big screen, which is how this film should be seen on the big screen. So now we're gonna
I
move,
was watching it on my TV.
which is kind of a big screen. Yeah, okay.
In a dark room is about the same.
It's like you had a drive-in
Exactly.
without a car,
Exactly. So,
Okay.
and on my bed.
and on your bed, and with your cat,
Exactly.
your psychotic cat.
She
So
loves me.
now we're going to go with the next film we're going to mention, we're going to discuss, is a film called La La Land from 2016, directed by Damien Chazelle. Basically, it's a film while navigating their careers in Los Angeles, a pianist and an actress fall in love while attempting to reconcile their aspirations for the future. This film stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Last night was the second time I watched this.
Mhm. That was the first time for me.
Okay. The first time I watched it on my tablet, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah. And
why would you do that to yourself?
I don't know. I just did. And it was good. I enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But seeing it on the bigger screen TV that I have, it was just amazing, and just another incredible film that utilizes cinematography, choreography, a great script. It's a beautiful film. What were your impressions?
My first impressions within the first 10 minutes of the movie was, it's gonna be one of those musicals. I'm sorry, but like they burst out singing in the LA traffic that everybody that lives in LA is so accustomed to, and I'm thinking, sweet Lord, baby Jesus. I know the deal was anime for musical, but is it really worth it?
Okay.
But I'm not gonna. That was the last time I'm gonna talk poorly about the musical genre. More mature now. It was a very enjoyable movie. I did genuinely. Cinematography was a 10 out of 10. Honestly, character design, as far as like all the background dancers having like monocolored, thought there was a nice little kind of nudge to like Broadway where they do like
Right.
the same type of attire.
Mhm.
Also the cinematography, like the different shots that they would do. Mwah, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It was really well done. Really, really well done. Also the Griffith Park.
Oh, the Griffith
Beautifully
Park.
shot.
Those are some of the highlights of in the film. I'm born and raised Angelino,
Yeah.
and watching this film, it's funny because if you drive around LA or you grew up in LA, LA doesn't look like that. But through rose-colored glasses, through nostalgia, that's how you see it in your heart, and that's how it was photographed. That's the style and the take they put into the film. It's like, Griffith Park doesn't look like that, but it does in your heart.
Yeah.
And so it's a love letter to LA and to Hollywood in a very romanticized approach. But what I really dug about this one was that it even opens with the CinemaScope logo, which was amazing. It was incredible. And so it was definitely an homage to the 50s musical, which was the heyday of, or the peak of the musical. I'll give you this, okay? That opening sequence on the freeway, that was it's the 105 transition onto the 110.
Absolutely.
And it was kind of like, when I first watched it, I'm like, I think it was the same reaction. I'm like, oh, geez,
Oh God.
it's going to be one of these. I mean, it wasn't, and I'm not going to say it was horrible, but it was very cliche.
It was very out of place.
Very out of place, way too upbeat and up tempo. I'm trying to warm up into this film, and this thing's already doing, burpees and calisthenics that I'm not ready for, Right?
Very, very well said, man. Very well said.
Yeah, and so, but I gave it a chance, and I think the film really peaked in its form, or got there when they started to focus more on the relationship between Emma Stone's character and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And they go with the musical tropes style, and again, it's an homage also to the musicals. but the storyline, where it goes and where it ends, is not your typical happy Hollywood ending, but a more realistic ending. It's not depressing, but it's not exactly a happy ending. It's just a realistic ending, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely more of like a classic, like a life view type of movie. I know that doesn't make sense when I say it out loud, but in my head it's made sense.
Okay.
But in cinema, it's mostly like happy ending, the end, everybody falls in love, everybody is happy towards the end. Versus in La La Land, where it definitely showed more of a realistic approach to how we normally would deal with things in life than how we would deal with things in a movie.
Right.
Where everything is set out and planned.
And where everything ends up.
Yeah.
And it's a very satisfying ending. I really was not expecting it the first time I saw it. But also I loved a lot of the clever devices that the director implemented. And only Angelinos, there's something only Angelinos can pick up on. For example, throughout the movie, they have a title card that'll say summer. And then the story goes on, and a little later it's like winter. And et cetera.
So forth and so forth, yeah.
Right. Well, what's funny is that whenever it says, let's say winter, it fades away and you see clear blue skies, sunny skies, autumn fades
Clear
away.
blue skies.
And that's a little in-joke of that's, there are no change of seasons like there is back east in LA. It looks like that year round, except for recently. I mean, we got these torrential rains that have not, it makes you feel like we just relocated.
Walked out of Seattle.
Yeah, we're in Seattle. I mean, it's been raining so much. But for the most part, in California, that's your average day. And I think that was a little in-joke they had in there.
The only thing that changes is what clothes you wear. In the summertime, you are wearing like a light T-shirt and the shortest shorts
Board
possible,
shorts, yeah.
Versus in the wintertime where you're like, okay, a light jacket because it doesn't get too cold.
Right. And then in the wintertime, then you put on your jacket. And no gloves or scarf,
No,
but
not that extreme, but
right.
All depends on where in California you live.
Right. Yeah, Northern California, you're going to get those colder weather.
Yeah.
Another really thing that I loved how the director used his camera angles and his transitions to bring a point across. The audition scene. Remember when she's auditioning for that one role that she makes it big on, and they tell her, just tell us a story.
Yeah.
And everything around her goes dark.
Goes to black, and it kind of has like a vignette sort of
and she's
feel.
and kind of like she's in her own world. She's in her own mind singing this song, and it was a beautiful, really well done sequence. One of the most impactful that I thought was subtle but was very heavy. There's a scene where Ryan Gosling's character and Emma Stone's character, they reunite because they've been separated for a while because of work, and they're having dinner. And they're listening to some jazz music, and they get into an eventual argument. And this scene, which is very impactful, very, very well structured, the music ends. You don't really notice that the music ends because they're talking, they're arguing, and, saying some pretty hurtful things back and forth. But then you get a shot of the record player, and the needle is at the end of the record. And it's kind of symbolic of their relationship the music is over for them.
Like this is as far as it goes for them. Yeah.
Right. And I thought that was pretty heavy. Again, I love the realistic approach to relationships, to the complexities of a no matter, two people who are very much in love, no matter how much, but sometimes they have to take a path that differs from the other. And it's heartbreaking and it's realistic. And I think that's what drives this film with these two characters. They have these ambitions, not just material ambitions, but these deep-rooted spiritual ambitions and desires that take them in two different directions. They know that they have to take these two different roads, despite the fact. Otherwise, they'd end up hating each other and being spiteful of one another. So I thought it was a great film. And every time I watch it, it pisses me off because that should have won Best Picture.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the big snafu of the Academy Awards. The Best Picture goes to, and they announce La La Land, and they go up there, and I'm thinking, finally, the Academy gets it right. Oh, no. I'm sorry, it was a mistake.
Sorry, mine bad.
Moonlight is Best Picture. I'm not even going to go into that one. But to me, this is La La Land was the epitome and with the representation of Hollywood, the magic, the spectacular stuff, the epicness, just the beauty of film. it encapsulated all of that in there. It was a love letter to Hollywood. It was a love letter to LA, to the arts, to jazz, to acting, to dreams, to love. It was all in one. And how it didn't win Best Picture, I don't know. So we're going to stop there because if I continue, I will get really, really more upset at the Academy. So, but yeah, if you haven't seen it and you do like musicals, unlike some people who I won't mention.
Yeah, I won't mention either, whoever you are.
I highly recommend it. It's a visual treat and just, I think, the peak of the art form of the modern musical. So next we're going to go with 2004's Phantom of the Opera, directed by Joel Schumacher. Now, this is like what, the 7th version on this subject, this film. This is like the 7th remake. The first being was, I believe, in 1925. It was a silent film with Lon Chaney. And that's a treat. If you like silent films, check this one out. You'll probably enjoy that one better than this one.
Yeah, because there's no singing in that one. It's a silent film.
Wow. But basically, it's the story of a young soprano who becomes obsessed over a disfigured and murderous musical genius who lives beneath the Paris Opera House. This version from 2004 stars Gerard Butler. Yes, Gerard Butler.
What?
Yeah.
Gerard Butler?
And Emmy Rossum. It's funny because when I first saw this, Butler had not really made his mark in these generic action films, which I enjoy a lot.
I love the Butler movies.
Yeah.
Where it's just like over the top action and it's meaningless, but it's fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, Plane is the most recent one, which you have to see this. But yeah, Gerard Butler has pipes. This man can sing.
Yeah, just like Hugh Jackman.
And it's a great film. And Emmy Rossum, she is the lead in the film, and she has the voice of an angel. Almost, I think it's almost Disney-like. Her singing voice, like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. It's a dark, beautiful, glossy iteration of the Phantom of the Opera story. Directly, in fact, I think this is much closer to the Broadway version. It's more of an adaptation of that version.
Got it. Okay.
And it's just incredible. I do recommend it. I know you hate musicals, but you got to watch this one.
Okay. Yeah,
Give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot.
You might like it. And
it has Gerard Butler, so I mean.
Yeah, he doesn't kill anybody in this or maim anybody, but he's still really cool.
No gun, pew pew?
No gun, pew pew, no breaking bones, none of that good stuff.
That's fair.
It's a great film. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I've seen a few other versions. I think Liam Neeson, I might be confusing because I know he did Les Miserables once. But I did watch the original Lon Chaney version, which is great. But yeah, this is just visually. Joel Schumacher, who directed this, he also directed Batman Forever. Mm-hmm. And I believe he directed Flatliners. Have you ever seen Flatliners?
No.
Oh, great film. You like cinematography, you like a good glossy look, that's a great looking film.
Okay.
Really, really good. But he definitely brings the glossy, visual, glamorous look to this film with the lighting and the film stock he uses. It's just amazing. You feel it. You're sucked into this storyline. That is, of course, if you like musicals. So
now I will want to say I watched all of La La Land. I watched half of West Side Story. Now you're saying, well, that's 1.5. I thought Carlos said he watched 2.5.
Yeah.
I watched 2.5 because I thought we were going to also mention Les Miserables. And I watched Les Miserables first because I was like, it has Hugh Jackman. It'll be more enjoyable for me personally.
Okay, let's touch upon that.
I actually really did enjoy Les Miserables. Even though 90% of that is singed.
It's a musical.
I know. But in La La Land, they're talking, and then they break out into song, right?
Well, they talk in Les Miserables, too.
For like 10 seconds of the movie. 90% of that movie, if you rewatch it, 90% of it is sung.
Okay.
Singed?
Sing it.
Sing it?
It's sung.
Sing it. Sing-eyed.
Sung.
Sunged.
Sung. Okay.
90% of it is sung.
Okay.
And it was still enjoyable for me just because it has Hugh Jackman. That's all I really need. And it still had a little bit of like a intense action plot to it.
Oh, and Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway's character, holy smokes, man.
Yeah. She
Tragically beautiful.
yeah. What's incredible about this film, just so you know, the most musicals when they're shot, they're filming the scene and they have music playing in the background, and basically in post is when the actors go in and sing their parts.
Right.
For this film, as they're filming, they're actually capturing the actual singing.
Oh.
This was none of this post-production ADR crap. They were singing as they were filming, and that's what you hear and see in the film.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. Russell Crowe.
Mm.
I mean, Gladiator, Gluteus Maximus, whatever his name was from Gladiator. Close enough.
Yeah.
He was incredible. Everybody, Hugh Jackman, Anne Hathaway, when she does I've Dreamed a
Dream.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that hits. And, you know, I think in this version of Les Miserables, in her character, you see the inhumane experience that she goes through, the torture, the mistreatment, more so than any other version.
I can't speak of any other version, but this is tragic.
You know, and you know, not to go into, but yeah, she goes some really bad stuff. And when she sings that song, your heart just breaks.
Yeah.
Great performance. And again, if you take it along, you know, you take into consideration also the fact that she sung it right there on the spot as they're filming. None of the, you know, no post-production singing.
10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah. So
2, 4, 6, so
yeah. So okay, so we kind of made up that. Okay, so,
so
you know,
it's
you make 2.5. I'll take that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, the musical, it's just an amazing. Again, it's almost 100 years old. I mean, with the advent of sound, naturally came music. I mean, we've as a race of humans, we've always been fascinated or moved or inspired by music. So when sound came out, it was almost a no-brainer that, well, let's do musicals. Let's do something with music.
Yeah.
And that was the late 20s. And yeah, they gained a huge popularity. One of the first was this producer director. He was a choreographer known for his distinctive and elaborate set pieces featuring multiple showgirls. His name was Busby Berkeley. Now, to give you a sense of his style of the stuff that he did, do you remember Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, what was her name? The blonde. Kate Capshaw played the role.
Uh-huh.
And she's a showgirl, and she's doing Anything Goes. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you have all those showgirls and everything in the background. That was Busby Berkeley style.
Oh, okay.
And so he brought that to film. And it was, films like 42nd Street, Gold Diggers, what was that, of 1933, Footlight Parade. I mean, these films were huge. And it was around that time that some of the earlier music stars / dancers gained popularity, like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rodgers. They became massive cultural fixtures in the eyes of the American public. Like, these films include films like Top Hat, 1935, Follow the Fleet, Swing Time, Shall We Dance. These were huge films. So the musicals were huge in the 20s and into the 50s. I wouldn't, there was even the Esther Williams musicals, which, have you ever seen? They've been parodied in several films where you see like these women in the swimming pool and they're all
like
and
in Austin Powers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was like there was these films with Esther Williams, who was I think she was a Olympic swimmer. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Barely qualified.
Yeah, barely. But she was the star of these films, and there was these Busby Berkeley kind of films, but in the water, which is choreographed, synchronized swimming, and they were kind of cheesy and stuff. I think going into the 50s, again, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rodgers gained their popular.
Yeah, no, that's a hard one to pronounce. Rodgers.
Yeah,
we'll cut you some slack.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Gene Kelly, Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Judy Garland. These are stars that just emerged, and these are all manufactured stars. And what I mean by that is that they had to look.
Now you got to learn to dance, to sing, to act.
And the studios who owned the old studio system, they own these actors. They were under contract. They would teach them how to sing, how to dance, how to talk, how to walk, how to poop. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And they groomed them to become these incredible film iconic figures. So, and that was during the golden era of the musical, which was like the mid to late 40s into the 50s. Now, what really, and so you got 30s to the 40s, and trends, they kind of fade out after 10 years.
Everything dies out at some point.
But what really pushed it forward in through the 50s was some technological advances in Hollywood. One was Technicolor, the 3-strip process, kind of like the Wizard of Oz kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just this beautiful exaggeration of colors. The reds are reds, the blues are blues, and so forth.
Are the greens greens?
They're very green, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot it.
I almost forgot about it.
Yeah,
Primary colors, man.
Remember the greens. So you have that aspect, all right, the Technicolor.
Right.
And then you have the widescreen. One of them was, as we mentioned, with La La Land, it opened with the CinemaScope logo, which was an aspect ratio of 235:1 to about 266, which is an anamorphic process that, they film on, I believe, like 35 millimeter, and they compress and decompress the image. So as you're filming it on a 35 millimeter strip of film, it compresses them and makes them skinny. And then really so much that when they decompress it and they project it, they do the opposite and stretches them out to look normal. So, and that's where you get your variance of 235:1 through 266. But imagine, the first widescreen film was 1950, I believe. It was a film called The Robe. But the musicals studios took full advantage. You also had VistaVision, which was another widescreen aspect ratio, also done with 35 millimeter film, which you actually ran horizontally through the camera to achieve that wider aspect, which is pretty interesting.
Whatever works,
Yeah. And, you had films like, so the 40s and 50s using these brighter colors, widescreen. And Hollywood had to compete with a new invention that was infiltrating homes across America, the television.
Right. I wasn't going to say the radio.
No.
That is not what I was going to say.
No, of course not.
No, of course not.
But they Hollywood, people were like, why do we go to a movie theater to see a movie when we could watch something in our home?
And that's more relevant now than ever.
Oh, it's happening again. And which does lead Hollywood to reinvent itself and advance new technological devices to lure people back in the theater. And that's what they did back in the 50s with the widescreen and the Technicolor. They even had 3D, which was kind of hokey, but it was something.
With the red and blue glasses, right?
Yeah.
I remember that.
So, back then, some of the highlights from that era, you got Meet Me in St. Louis, Easter Parade, On the Town, American in Paris, the ever most iconic Singing in the Rain. And what are you laughing at?
Sorry. It's because you said An American in Paris, and then my mind went to An American Werewolf in London. I'm sorry.
Two very different movies.
I know.
Although he was an American in London,
exactly,
Europe.
In Europe, but
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah, but again, films like White Christmas, The King and I, they fully utilized and took to their full advantage the use of the widescreen and the color usage. And yeah, people actually became, they started coming back to the theaters and watching because they couldn't see that at home.
Well, I mean, if I'm not going to have it at home and I'm not going to enjoy it as much, I'm going to pay the little extra dollars to go to the theater.
Right. And up until recently, within the last 20 years, it's like, okay, yeah, we got our plasma TVs, right? But do we really have the kind of sound system that you could hear in a movie theater?
Right.
Oh, now we're there.
Yeah.
So Hollywood is in trouble right now. I mean, that in that sense, because you have streaming, that everything's at your fingertips. You got a few extra bucks. You got your 7.1 surround system in your home, an 85-inch screen. You can even make your own screening room at home now for a decent price. So Hollywood now, they're in trouble. They're trying to figure out a way to reinvent themselves. And I have no idea where it's going, but
I do.
What do you think?
Mark my words. You heard it here first on the Filmjoe Podcast. The next thing to bring people back into the cinema,
Okay.
pause for dramatic effect,
Pause.
is going to be a Neuralink. You live in the movie.
Oh.
Hear my words. Elon Musk is going to create something outrageous where you get a chip implanted and you are transported to Jurassic Park or whatever it is that you want to watch. Is it a good idea? Probably not.
No.
Will people pay money to do it?
Oh, absolutely.
I would be the first idiot in line to do something outlandish like that. Where would I be transported? Star Wars.
Star Wars. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds intriguing.
It's never going to happen, though.
I wouldn't say that.
Maybe.
I think we're definitely heading some sort of interactive setup.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not a Neuralink, though, but something.
It's going to be something amazing. You're going to be plugged into your movie, literally.
Literally, yeah.
So with that said, the musical continued to evolve. The 60s was kind of like a down time for the musical in the 60s. I mean, what do we have that really exploded onto the scene as far as musically in the 60s? We have the Beatles, Elvis Presley, the Rolling Stones.
Love the Stones.
Yeah, the Stones were awesome. They still are they're 115 years old?
Yeah,
something like that. But there was still some musicals into the 60s, but there was definitely a lull in the 60s. You had maybe 5 or 7 musicals that kind of made their mark. Good films. I mean, something like The Music Man, My Fair Lady, Mary Poppins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from Disney. So they kind of stuck around. But again, with these films, it suggested that, the musical was still kind of in good health. But then you have Hard Day's Night, which was a documentary musical about the Beatles.
Okay.
And another one called Help, also the Beatles. And I've seen them. People think they're, I don't know. It depends on your taste. But that's where the audiences were gearing towards. At that point of, since the 50s, the majority of the audiences, the primary demographic were teenagers that were going to really bringing in the bucks to the cinema. And of course, what are they listening to? They're listening to rock and roll, to Elvis, to the Beatles, and things like that. They don't want to hear The Music Man or things like that, or Mary Poppins. And Mary Poppins, unless they were 6 years old at the time. But yeah, I mean, it definitely took a dip in that time. And, and then you go into the 70s. The 70s was still, you have a couple of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
You showed me the trailer for that, and listen, I've never been more invested in a movie that I've never seen, but I'm curious as hell to watch it, just because it looks
disturbing.
It looks like a weird dream that I had one time where nothing made sense, and then I pulled a sandwich out of a hat, and then the hat was a rabbit as well. I don't know. It was weird.
Okay, then this movie would probably be right up your alley. It's a strange film. Tim Curry is just iconic as Dr. Frankenfurter. Incredible cast. Susan Sarandon is in it. When she was much younger. So that made it made quite a splash in the cinema. There was one called Cabaret was another big one. Jesus Christ Superstar.
What?
Yeah, Jesus Christ Superstar. It was a rock opera musical about the life of Jesus Christ.
That's going to be my next musical that I watch. That sounds so interesting, man.
Well, the heart, I seen it, and it has his heart in the right place as far as the subject matter, but it was just kind of odd. There's these 70s rock, kind of Age of Aquarius kind of thing with these apostles, and it was a strange kind of film. It was a huge hit, though, and it was also on Broadway.
The things that will make money nowadays. Well, hey, back then.
Yeah.
Least, yeah.
But again, so the musical at that time still had a pulse. It hadn't completely disappeared. And then you go into the 80s and the 90s. You have the Little Shop of Horrors. Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I know you hate musicals.
Yeah.
You hate musicals.
Hey, yeah, fair.
The Little Shop of Horrors. It's about a plant that eats people.
Sold.
And the special effects by the Jim Henson Company, who did the Muppets.
Okay, all right.
Great animatronics, great puppetry, and it stars Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters. Remember the
oh, okay.
Yeah, he was the accountant. Mm-hmm. Incredibly awesome film. Cheesy. Bill Murray makes a cameo that's just one for the ages. Steve Martin makes his own cameo as well.
Okay,
in fact,
so
they're cameos in the same
sad.
scene. You have to see it to believe it. An amazing film. Then there was Labyrinth with David Bowie
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of found that film a little disturbing in a few elements, but also Jim Henson. Jim Henson was big in the 80s. He was doing a lot of stuff, Labyrinth being one of them. And then there was Evita with Madonna and Antonio Banderas.
Oh, okay.
Not a bad film. I mean, Madonna was not that great an actress. She's an amazing singer.
Mm-hmm.
But that was about the extent of it into the 80s and 90s as far as making a splash in the cinematic landscape. But what's interesting now, I mean, of course you have the Disney Renaissance.
Right.
Now I'm hesitant to bring Disney in on this as far as music and film, because I am not a big fan of Disney for so many reasons. Yeah, not a big fan. They are the Illuminati. But that's another... Maybe I should edit that out, huh?
Yeah, maybe. They'll come after us.
But I'm not a big fan of Disney. But they did have the Renaissance of the mid-90s with The Little Mermaid. What was the other one? The Beauty and the Beast. Lion King. What was the other one? Aladdin.
Sleeping Beauty?
Yeah, that was like 50 years
OG,
before. But no, we're talking about the Disney resurgence.
Right. Princess and the Frog.
Princess and the Frog.
Much later after the 90s.
That was towards the end of their run. But that kind of, I think that whet the appetite for filmgoers for the music. I mean, granted, they were animated films, but they definitely had elements, and they were, for all practical purposes, they were musicals. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of kept that appreciation alive to where now we get into the 2000s, and we had this resurgence of the musical that started coming back. And some great ones. I mean, you have, I think, you see Moulin Rouge, correct?
I have.
Did you like that one?
Okay. The story behind that one is that I wouldn't watch it willingly. My sister loves that movie, and she would never stop playing it, so I know it. You know.
It was a good film.
It's a good film. I still sing it whenever that song comes out or wherever I hear it.
And it also utilized the elements of cinematography, of lighting, costume. It was very elaborate, great film. Chicago in 2002, which was a really good. That's with Richard Gere and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Phantom of the Opera 2004. Sweeney Todd. Now you got to check this one out. This one came out in 2007. It's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Okay, now let me sell you this.
Okay. Pitch it to me.
Stars Johnny Depp.
Okay.
And it's directed by Tim Burton.
Okay. I'm seeing Division.
About a psychotic barber in England who basically puts people in his barber's chair, slices their throat, pulls a lever, the chair flips, and they go down a chute into his basement.
I expect primarily what I expect from,
Tim Burton
and Depp. Yeah. Sounds like a trip.
Yeah, it was. It was very bloody, very graphic, and it had singing.
Murder and a sing.
Yeah,
singing.
And a song.
Sing it.
And a singing. But I think you would enjoy that one because it's Tim Burton, it's Johnny Depp, and it's bloody, and it's happy singing, but they're killing people. It's a trippy film.
Sits in my chair, let me slice your throat.
Exactly.
You'll be my victim. Yeah, they should hired me, man.
Yeah, and then and then you have Mamma Mia, 2008, which I refuse to see.
Yeah, I'll be with you right there.
La La Land, Greatest Showman, West Side Story, most recently. So, we have this resurgence. I mean, we have since the beginning of the 2000s, this resurgence of the musical. Love them or not, they're not going away. I mean,
I did enjoy one musical, which is not really a musical, Bohemian Rhapsody.
That was more of a biopic.
It's a biopic, but it has a lot of songs, so I'm gonna label it a musical.
Doesn't
and
count.
just because it counts,
No,
it counts
it
in my
doesn't
book. It
count.
counts in my
It's
book
not a musical.
because it has my favorite band, man. It's Queen.
Well, yeah, but it was a biopic.
It counts because there's more than like one song.
Okay, how many times did they break out into song when
None.
they're talking?
None.
Because you know why?
But it's still a musical because it has the songs from Queen.
I don't know. So anyway, it's not a musical.
It's a musical.
Oh, you know what? We forgot to mention one of your favorites.
Which one?
1976 or 78, Grease.
I was when you gave me the list of musicals to watch after the anime episode that we did, I was really hoping you wouldn't put Grease, and then you did put Grease, and I was like, "Oh, sweet Lord, baby Jesus!" And then when we re-edited the movies that we would talk about, we took off Grease, and I was like, "Oh, yes, there is a God."
I decided to take some. I had mercy on you.
Thank you.
But,
That's
but
very,
it's a great
very
film. How can
musically.
you not like Grease?
Uh,
Bunch of 30-year-olds acting
playing
like
high school students.
It was great. Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta. I mean, they were fantastic.
I'm not saying that they weren't fantastic. I'm just saying if there was a more serious movie, maybe would have watched it. Maybe
We had
you
serious-
throw in the fact that it's a musical.
Well, it
No
had
thanks.
elements of a serious story.
I think the only thing that would have called me to that movie would have been like the timepiece that it set in. You know, like the greasers and
Right.
the little poofy dress
And
girls.
they
I don't
had
remember
that.
the name of that,
the
but
poodle dresses they were called.
poodle dress. There you go. But I like that time period. Like I said, The Outsiders, one of my favorite timepieces. But other than that, probably will never watch it on my own.
All right. Well, at least you know what? At least you got to watch and get your feet wet with some musicals. And honestly, you did see the quality in the artistry in some of
Yeah,
these
no,
films.
I'm not talking the whole musicals. Yes, I am. But yeah, I do see I do see the value that they have, and how they should carry and how they carry significance in their
Yeah.
respective genre.
Yeah, and again, what's amazing is that it's one of those genres that is not a super popular genre, but it doesn't go away.
No matter how hard you try.
But to your disdain.
Yeah.
But they come and they have their peaks and ebbs, but they continue to move forward, and it's amazing. Unlike other genres, like the Western, it'll take something extraordinary for a Western to make a comeback.
Yeah.
The last great Western was Tombstone and Silverado, The Unforgiven. I think that was about it. I mean, Dances with Wolves is, like we discussed, is a Western, but it's not your typical Western.
Yeah.
But
Would you consider The Hateful Eight a Western?
yeah, but that's Tarantino.
It's Tarantino, but I mean anything he touch. He's got the Midas touch.
Yeah, he can do anything he wants
Yeah.
and make it work. But for the most part, with those little blips on the radar, the Western has pretty much disappeared. Unlike, say, the musical, which is still prevalent on some level or another.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting where it's going to go from this point. So, you have any parting words before we make our exit here?
Goodbye. Hope we never do another musical episode again. There will be no part 2. There will be no second coming. There will be no sequel to this episode.
We may do bad musicals.
Please.
Okay. Well, we'll put that idea on the back burner. So we really hope you enjoyed our show, and hope you'll join us next week for an all new episode. Please help to support the podcast by giving us a 5-star review, a good review. Another way you can help to support the pod is simply just follow us or subscribe to us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, Boomplay, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can also just word of mouth is also a great way to support our pod. You can recommend us to a friend, an enemy.
The dog's enemy?
Hey, still with the dog.
You know what? Okay, let's the alligator's enemy.
Okay, the
If you
alligator.
live in Florida.
Okay, we'll go with the Florida alligator's enemies.
Yeah.
But we really thank everyone who's been listening and has been supporting the pod. We're very grateful to that. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, where we regularly drop our promos for our upcoming episodes and some interesting factoids or any developments or announcements. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and check out our YouTube channel. Also for more updates and announcements. All these links, find them in our show notes. Also, if you want to contact us, give us some input, tell us what you think about the show. You can email us directly at thefilmjoepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. So that pretty much, that's a wrap. So I'm Joe,
I'm Carlos.
and this is the Film Joe Podcast,
Where film talk happens.
Oh,
Welcome to the Film Joe Podcast.
No, I don't think so.